I'm Justin Franson here with Dr. Tom Bayne of PureBalance, Glenview, Illinois is where his practice is and he's based out of. He is a longtime friend, one of the top professionals in this space, and just master nutrition and honing in on supplemental products for optimizing performance for everybody. Now he has a couple exciting new products that he's brought to market. Now, with all this experience and all these years of experience, he's brought just a few products in. And so he's honing in on some that you're gonna wanna see and check out and make sure you get from your doctors as well. And we originally met at Dr. Darren Weissman's Lifeline Technique, his conference that he had and seminar that he had. And so we're so excited to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Being a speaker, and he's also a sponsor, so we gotta definitely take a look at some of his products, and you'll get to hear from him and then talk to him live after this and learn more about what he does and what these products do. So let's go back to where it all started. How did you end up becoming a doctor and have so much just connection with TBM and muscle testing, and then go into the nutrition side where you're at today?
So when I graduated from chiropractic school, I had an opportunity to move to Belgium, and I went and worked with my now wife's family, and my father-in-law had 2 chiropractic practices in Belgium, and he also started importing supplements from the U.S. and he was distributing them throughout Europe, Belgium, Holland, France, Luxembourg. And so at a really young age, I had an opportunity to work in a company where they were really bringing the concepts of functional medicine, to the forefront. And so I got to be involved with functional medicine at its, earliest roots in Europe. And so I was involved with functional medicine testing, interpretation of the results, and then the creation of products around those results, and consulting with physicians on how to use those results and how to use the products with different conditions. So it was an incredible opportunity at a very young age to be, on the front lines of functional medicine. So my father-in-law sold that company to Metagenics. So Metagenics Europe is my father-in-law's old company. When he sold that, we moved back to the U.S. and I started a family practice in the northern suburbs of Chicago. And but I had that desire to create, that desire to be involved in the development and research of nutritional supplements. I've always felt like one of the main things that was lacking in the industry was real human research trials on these products where we could show, just like a drug, we could show benefits in certain situations and conditions. So I stayed very involved in the research side when I first moved back to the U.S. We were, working with different companies and doing research trials with them. And also at that point, because I got so much on the functional medicine side, I started to explore more of the energetic side. So I got involved with the Lifeline Technique with Dr. Weissman. Darren and I were business partners for a couple of years, creating the Lifeline Technique, and I helped with the supplements together with that. And that's where you and I met. So I've looked at, neuroemotional technique, which is again another type of emotional technique, total body modification, Viktor Frank's work. I've used a lot of that as kind of my base template that I work off of when I work with patients. So the energy medicine was something that when I moved back to the States about 17 years ago, I dove into. I really wanted to do something a little different than I had been doing. I still, in my practice, I still use all of those energy techniques, but that one side of my brain that was really research driven and wanting to see things on paper, I kind of shifted back into more of the research studies and product development type work. And so, going back to the beginning, 17 years ago, living in the Midwest, I started practicing, and without any intention, my practice became this digestive health practice. I don't know why. I didn't set out for it, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like, the number one reason people go to the doctor is because of some form of digestive problem. But then you also have things like psoriasis and eczema, where the GI tract is the source of that symptom. Headaches sometimes will be the GI tract. So what was happening is that people were coming in with lots of different conditions, and they're like, well, I understand what your symptom is, but actually the source of your problem is your GI tract. We're going to clean up your GI tract. So I was kind of known as the gut guy, back then. So a lot of the research that I got involved with was around gastrointestinal conditions and the treatment of symptoms associated with GI imbalance. So now, fast forward a little bit, about 5 years ago, I was given a big ream of data on a number of probiotic strains. So I've used every probiotic in the marketplace. I've tried every one, all of the lactobacillus and bifidobacteria products. I bought in that more is better, we need 100 billion, we need 200 billion, I was always frustrated with it. And previous to getting this data on probiotics, I really wasn't even using any probiotics. I was using a little bit of Boulardi, and I was importing some probiotic waste products from Japan that were very expensive, but nonetheless they seemed to change the pH of the digestive tract, seemed to help people, but very transient benefit. As soon as people stopped taking the products, there really was no benefits. So I felt like I had a good understanding of probiotics, but I really didn't. And what I find out now as I travel around is lots of people think they know probiotics. They think they understand the idea of probiotics and yogurts and fermented foods and everything, but the science of it, really, even some of the most educated doctors that I run into, they don't understand the science of it. And so this data that I was given really opened up my eyes, and it really got me to see that a lot of the products that are out there as probiotics, they're really not probiotics. They're really just dead bugs. They're not able to survive through the GI tract. There's actually a lab here in San Diego that's doing survivability testing on all the probiotics in the professional and retail market. And not one probiotic has shown more survivability than 14%.
Wow.
But the vast majority of them, it's 0. And so they're dead bugs. And the dead bugs do have some benefits. So we can't dispute that. There are people that have symptom improvements and things like that. But the challenge is you're not really changing the environment of the GI tract. You're not really making a shift that is a lasting change. And so the probiotic strains that I was exposed to, they're commensal organisms. They're human commensal organisms. Every human has receptor sites in their body for these organisms, but they're environmental organisms. So we co-evolved over millions of years with these organisms, and they're transient. They move through us over a 3 to 4 week period, but while they're inside our bodies, they're doing just amazing things. They're getting rid of bad infections like candida, pathogenic bacterial infections. They actually have the ability to produce 25 different antibiotics in order to kill off bacterial infections in your gut that aren't supposed to be there. So it's just a complete game changer in the probiotic industry. It's not we're the first people to attempt this, but we are the first people that have been able to stabilize it. Because as cool as these bugs are, if they're not in their spore form, they're not able to survive through the gastric system
Right.
and get into the GI tract. So, so what we've been able to see with these spores, the differences between these probiotics and other probiotics is, one, the ability to survive through the GI tract. So the spore formers, when they're in spore form, they survive through the GI tract, no problem. They get into the small intestine. Within 6 minutes, they come out of their spore, and they use quorum sensing, which is how bacteria talk to each other. And they use this way of communicating to figure out who's supposed to be here and who's not. And when they figure that out, then they go to work and they clean up the intestinal tract. And so we've been taught for years, going back to school and all the functional medicine training, we've been taught that the bowel is, we're going to reseed the bowel with good bacteria. This is the reseeding theory. But if you took all the research that's ever been done on probiotics, about 95% of it's been done in the last 5 or 6 years. So that science says that the reseeding theory is not supported by science in any way, shape, or form. You can't just eat bacteria and then they go live in your digestive tract and live happily ever after. That's not supported by science. Sending in environmental organisms that clean up the intestinal tract and create an environment that's conducive for the bacteria that you got from your mom to thrive, that's science. That's supported by the research. And that's what these bugs do. The bacteria that live in our GI tracts, we get it from our mom. They're anaerobic organisms that we get from our mother, and either we can do things to create an environment to allow them to thrive, or we create an environment that kills them off and allows other opportunistic infections to settle in. And so these organisms clean up the intestinal tract and create an environment that allows the bacteria that you got from your mom to thrive. And so that's creating lasting change in the intestinal tract. And that's real science. And what we're seeing with the product has been remarkable. I mean, it really has been remarkable. Patients with primary gastrointestinal problems, it's the go-to product for them. Patients with skin conditions, with headaches, patients with fatigue, chronic fatigue type symptoms, and fibromyalgia. This has really become the cornerstone of their treatment, because what we're doing is we're cleaning out the intestinal tract, upregulating their immune system, and the waste products of these bugs are actually nutrition for us. So our waste is nutrition for them, and their waste is nutrition for us. It's the craziest thing. But that's the whole idea of this coevolution that we've had with these organisms over millions of years. So what we've been doing is we've been testing these products. We've been putting them to the test. And so we just finished recently at the University of North Texas, we just finished the first double-blind, placebo-controlled human leaky gut study. So we use postprandial endotoxemia. So after a person eats a high carbohydrate, high fat meal, the translocation of bacteria and bacterial endotoxins into their serum is not a process that's supposed to happen. You're not supposed to find waste products from bacteria in your blood. If they are there, it implies that there's been some kind of barrier breakage, that there's some kind of Swiss cheese component to the GI tract, or what in functional medicine we call the leaky gut for 25 years now. So this was the first human leaky gut study, and what we were able to show is that in 30 days we completely sealed up the gut without any change in diet or any change in lifestyle. So leaky gut, as it pertains to athletes, be they weekend warrior athletes or elite professional athletes, what we've been able to see and what the research shows is that high intensity training weakens the junctions at the intestinal lining. And so that weakening of those junctions causes the leaky gut, it causes the translocation of the toxins and the bacteria. And what you're seeing then is low-grade inflammation in them. And if you look at athletes that train really intense and for long periods of time in distance runners, there's a phenomenon of distance runners where they have gastrointestinal complaints. Many long distance runners complain of constipation, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, different things like that. You see people doing like Ironmans and they're vomiting and stuff like that. What that comes from is the weakening of the intestinal barrier, the translocation of toxins and poisons into the bloodstream, which obviously is decreasing their performance, but at the same time it's making them sick, and then it doesn't just snap right back and fix itself when the competition's over. So if you got these people, there are many instances in the literature of people who've stopped their competitive training, different sports and things like that, because their GI tract wasn't able to withstand the intensity of the training. And so we now know that that's leaky gut. That is a leaky gut, and if we can do something to prevent that, and while they're doing their training, we can give them something to quickly seal the gut up, then not only are we preventing the GI symptoms that are inevitable in these athletes, but we're also looking at improving their performance as they go. So with the spore-based probiotics, what we were able to see is that by sealing up the leaky gut, we were able to decrease inflammatory markers, we were able to decrease insulin levels, increase glucagon levels. Every way that you can measure inflammation in the body, or in the GI tract specifically, we were able to show improvement with that. And so basically what we feel is that with the leaky gut being kind of this potential outcome of intense training, we don't see how you can't use a spore-based probiotic in the training. It really gets to the point of controlling the inflammation and improving their performance. So what the spores do, we talked about they get rid of infection, but the really interesting thing is they actually have the ability to produce nutrient spores. So when they're in there, they're eating fibers and sugars, and they're, pardon my French, they're pooping out the full complex of B vitamins in their methylated form, so very easy to, and they're doing it right, all this is being done right at site of absorption. Right. So they're producing all these B vitamins, produces coenzyme Q10, vitamin K2. It's the only probiotic that's showing the ability to increase short-chain fatty acids. And so short-chain fatty acids are really what's necessary to trigger your body to shift from burning sugar for energy to burning fat for energy. So huge. Not only is that huge, but the short-chain fatty acids themselves are very anti-inflammatory to the GI tract. And they create an environment that's really conducive for the good bacteria that you got from your mom to thrive in that environment. So, we're not aware of any probiotic that's showing the ability to get rid of dysbiosis, get rid of bad yeast and bad bacteria. Nobody's shown the ability to do that in humans. Peak Biotics has shown the ability to do that in humans. We're not aware of any probiotic that's shown the ability to increase short-chain fatty acids. The implications in inflammatory bowel disease with short-chain fatty acids are huge. Implications in cancer. Lots of research on butyrated cancers. But at the end of the day, it's everybody needs to be focused on how do I burn more fat for energy instead of sugar.
Exactly.
And so it really is, it becomes a go-to for everybody because it's a level of fitness in your supplement that is allowing your body to be more effective at burning fat, decreasing inflammation. And so that's the probiotic. And so the probiotic has been something that we've seen phenomenal results across the board with numbers of different conditions. But what's really exciting is watching competitive athletes talk about how they're able to compete more, how they're seeing improvements with their whatever sport it is that they may be doing. So probiotics come from the process of fermentation. And so the guys in the lab, who are a lot smarter than me, they're working with fermentation the whole time.
Yeah.
So one of the outcomes of working with these probiotics is the production of vitamin K2. And so vitamin K2 is a fascinating nutrient. Okay, there's been research on it since the early 80s showing the benefits of bone health. Basically, one of the things that K2 does is it's responsible for calcium transport. So it goes into your body, it finds loose calcium, it attaches to it, and it drives it back to the bones. So there were some interesting studies in the 80s that showed improved bone health. So then somebody started asking, well, where did that calcium come from? So they started doing some other studies, and they said, oh my goodness, the K2 is going into the arteries, it's grabbing the calcium that's plaquing in my arteries, and it's driving it back to the bones. So not only am I fixing my bone health, but I'm reversing cardiovascular disease. So phenomenal. At that point, you've got an incredible nutrient.
Right.
So what we started asking ourselves is, well, what else does it do? And where's the dosing at its optimal level? So what we experimented with was elite athletes. We experimented with elite athletes, and we got them into a laboratory setting, and we used a combination product called Myomax. And with Myomax, what we were able to show was basically at 320 mics of vitamin K2, we are feeding the mitochondria. We are rescuing the mitochondria if it's sick, but we are improving energy output by the mitochondria by upwards of 40%.
Wow.
So your heart has the most mitochondria of any tissue in your body. So what we showed at 320 micrograms of K27 a day, we showed the ability for the heart to function better as a muscle. That the heart was able to put more energy out than it was previously able to do.
40%?
So check out these numbers. These are some crazy numbers. So here's the thing. So if you look at, let's go with the elite athlete. Not because, I mean, they're the smallest percentage, but they're the most interesting to look at, because you look at these people and you think they're perfect specimens, okay? But even an elite athlete cannot keep their performance at a peak level for an extended period of time. They have a crash. They give off a little bit of their peak numbers, whatever it might be. Why is that? Well, the reason that is because oxidative stress builds up. Oxidative stress builds up. What does it do? It damages the mitochondria. Mitochondria doesn't put out as much energy. So what we were able to show with the Myomax is that we were able to rescue the sick mitochondria. We were able to support the healthy mitochondria to function even better. And so this is the first nutrient that has been proven in humans to increase the length of time that an athlete can be at their peak.
Wow.
So that by itself is phenomenal. We showed a decrease in blood lactate levels. So everybody knows that lactate slows down your ability to recover, but it also slows down your ability when you're at maximum heart rate to function. So what the researchers who did the study said, they said that 8 weeks on Myomax was the equivalent of endurance training for 6 to 9 months. 6 to 9 months of endurance training was the same thing. And then they concluded that you could reach your peak fitness working out 60% less than you would have needed to without the Myomax.
Wow.
So recovery and performance, huge. So these are the numbers. So these elite athletes, at maximal heart rate, we were able to increase cardiac output by 12%. So that means each stroke of the heart was pumping out 12% more blood than it was before they took the Biomax.
Wow.
So what that translates to is, I've been taking it for 8 weeks. You have not. I'm going to pump 900 liters more oxygenated blood through my body in a 24-hour period. If you and I go out and do the same physical activity for 60 minutes, I'm going to pump 50 to 60 liters more oxygenated blood through my body than you are. And what that's going to do is that's going to bring more oxygen, more nutrients to your muscles. It's also going to pull a lot of the carbon dioxide, a lot of the waste away from your muscles. So really what we're looking at is we're looking at the ability to train harder, recover quicker, perform at maximum heart rate better, and stay at peak level of fitness for longer.
Awesome.
It's crazy.
That's what we want.
Performance enhancement.
That's going beyond.
Yeah, it's going way beyond. Way beyond. So now the thing is, not all vitamin K27 products are created equal. And unfortunately, there's only one brand of vitamin K2 that is pharmaceutical grade. Vitamin K27 is a very unstable molecule, especially when it's mixed with anything. So a lot of the products that you see in the marketplace, they're not the Medical Gold brand. And we're not exclusive to the Medical Gold brand, but we are, at this point, the only one doing it at the 320 microgram dose in the Biomax. And so the Medical Gold, that's a pharmaceutical grade vitamin K2. It's sold to pharmaceutical companies around the world as a drug. In the US, it's a supplement, but in other countries around the world, it's a drug. So they adhere to pharmaceutical standards. A lot of the stuff that's in the marketplace, even in the physician's market, when we have it tested in a third-party lab, it doesn't meet label claim. And most of the products are 100 micrograms or less that are on the market anyway. At 320 micrograms, we found that we were getting 98% carboxylation. And that's where the calcium is moving, that's where the mitochondria is being stimulated, that's where ATP is being pushed out, is at that level. So at lower levels, you're not getting that kind of stimulation to the tissues. So the 320 mic dose of the Biomax, and the Biomax also has some other nutrients mixed in with it to help with absorption and to help with utilization of vitamin K2. And so the Biomax product combined with the PureBalance product is really what we're doing is we're traveling around, we're talking to athletes, we're talking to trainers, and we're saying to them, look, this is the way, it doesn't matter if somebody's just walking in off their couch and they haven't been off their couch in years, this is the best thing you can do for them to decrease the inflammation, to get them to start working out and getting their training going and getting them into the world of working out. Or if you've got an absolute elite Olympic athlete who's looking to increase their performance, these two things they're going to be a staple for the elite athletes because of the research. It's the research that's driving what we do. We're not just sitting here saying, oh, ours is good because we say so. Or we're not taking research from some other company or from some university where they used 5 grams of an ingredient and we're using 50 milligrams and saying, oh, this is the research that supports use of our product. This is research that's being done with these finished products. And it's been really exciting. And what you find is that a lot of these researchers, they love it because they've been saying all along, why can't we get some of these nutritional products in here to do the research? So it's been a fascinating journey for me. I love the idea of being in the performance world. I do a lot of traveling myself, and so for me, it's not always easy to get the workouts in or the kind of workout maybe that I want to do. So having that extra support from my supplement program, I really enjoy that. And then I enjoy meeting elite athletes and weekend warriors. And weekend warriors are the funnest ones to work with, to be honest. But I enjoy meeting them and showing them this data, getting them on the products, and then watching their improvements in strength, improvements in endurance, improvements in how they feel. So it's been exciting.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now go over the parasites are a big challenge in so many people, and talk about parasites and how it works with.
So parasites are opportunistic organisms. They're there because you invited them there, and there's a number of parasites. There's some really interesting stuff going on in the Southern California area with the American Microbiome Project. Some of the stuff they're doing at Cal Davis, and some of the researchers there are doing some really cool stuff. And some of these people that they're testing that are really healthy are still showing up with certain strains of parasites. And they're starting to question, hey, is the presence of this parasite really a good thing because it's triggering the immune system to function at a higher level? Or so I think in the next 5 years, we're going to learn a lot about parasites. Clinical application of parasites for certain autoimmune conditions, things like that. But also are there some of them that are normal for us? But I just had a patient just yesterday in my office, my last patient before I jumped on a plane. She was in Thailand and China earlier this year, and when she left, she had no GI issues. When she came back, she's got horrible GI issues. So to me, stool testing is not the best way of evaluating what's going on in your GI tract. It's a great way of evaluating what's going on in the distal colon, but it's not really a very good way of seeing what's going on throughout the whole area. So I don't really use that as my front line of analysis in testing people. With this patient, it's like, she felt like she had a parasite. I was pretty sure she had a parasite, but to me, it's like something changed in the environment of her colon that allowed that parasite to go in and take hold.
Right.
So what the spores do is they create an environment that's conducive for the bacteria that you got from your mom to thrive. The bacteria that you got from your mom cannot thrive in the presence of parasites. The parasites are doing things to shut them down and to keep them from producing nutrients that are making the environment nice for the bacteria. Instead, the parasites want it to be nice for them.
Right.
So straight up data on, Giardia or something like that, we don't have that yet. We don't have a clinical study that shows, patients that had X parasite took Probiotics and we got rid of those parasites. We don't have that. But what we do have is a ton of anecdotal evidence of patients with massive GI issues after they travel to a third world country, and then we recondition their bowel, get it functioning like it's supposed to, and their symptoms go away. They're not having the diarrhea, they're not having the intestinal cramping and things like that. So I think, the next decade is going to be really interesting because of all the data that's going to be coming out of the American Microbiome Project. And our understanding of the critters that live in and on us is going to become, more vast and more deeper understood. So that'll be exciting stuff. For now, reconditioning the bowel, getting the environment such that the bacteria you got from your mom can thrive, that's what we know. That's what we know we can do. And so far, in the patients that have either come in with a confirmed diagnosis of parasites or a very strong feeling that they got parasites, we've seen really good results with them.
Definitely. Well, how about IBS and heartburn?
Yeah,
so based on that.
Go-to product for it. I mean, it's the go-to product because what is IBS? IBS is a bunch of symptoms and the doctors don't really know what to do for it, so they give it a name. They spend 95% of their time, effort, and resources to give it a name. All right, we're gonna call it IBS. We're gonna put you all in this box, okay, but we don't really have anything for it, or try this, try that. And so with IBS patients, I mean, I've had patients who've had chronic IBS, I've seen them get better in hours. Now, it's always fun in these situations to talk about your home runs. You know, and there have been patients who've literally taken the product and within 2 hours have said, oh my God, the IBS I've had forever is way better or gone. Okay, but consistently within the first month of taking the product, we see dramatic improvement in their symptoms. If somebody has a wheat allergy, I'm just shooting from the hip right now. If somebody has a wheat allergy and they don't eat wheat and they've got minor symptoms, they take the probiotics, their symptoms feel better, then they eat wheat. Okay, the spores didn't fix the wheat allergy, okay? Especially not in a few days. So, you know, you gotta kind of go with what you know too. Right. You know, when you talk to somebody like, I can't eat whatever because I get bloated. I can't eat raw vegetables, I get bloated. Okay, well, let's do this for a month. Don't eat any raw vegetables. Do it for a month. And then after a month, let's start to introduce them slowly. Let's see if the environment's changed enough that after a month to allow you to tolerate it. Crohn's and colitis patients, I mean, I have stories, patients who were scheduled to have 15 to 20 inches of their bowel removed, that they, you know, canceled the surgery after a week on the product, and after a month on the product, they're adding weight and, you know, feeling strong again. So primary GI symptoms, I love it. You know, patients come in and you know, they think they're going to get, you know, $1,000 worth of tests to figure out what's going on. Like, no, I'm going to give you this probiotic. I'm going to make some dietary changes here. I want you to do this for a month. Come back and see me. It's affordable. And it's effective. And so primary GI things. When you get into things where the immune system's a little bit more dysregulated, then the amount of time that you have to do it increases.
Right.
You know, I mean, I've had patients with, you know, really severe psoriasis and things like that, where they've been on the product for 5 years, going on 5 years. And so, and they're continuing to slowly get better. But, you know, you're, in addition to correcting the gut, you're teaching the immune system how to function. And some people's immune systems are really bad students. They're just not doing what they're supposed to do. And so it takes time for the spores to tutor the immune system to get it to change. And so those are the conditions that, it's not that they're more difficult, it's just that it takes a longer period of time before they see the really good results.
Now you touched on nutrition, you make some modifications with nutrition. Dive into that a little bit for us. What's proper nutrition?
So from a diet standpoint, you mean? Yeah. So you know what? I've done them all. I gotta tell you, from the days when I first started, when the first guy that I was working with said everybody needed to be vegetarian, to, I mean, you name it. I've done every one of them. This is my thing. And this is, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that would dispute this. This is my thing. I think that life is about controlling inflammation. I think that's just where the rubber hits the road. If you can control inflammation, you're good. And so if you're doing that, now either when you eat, you either are neutral, you're decreasing inflammation, or you're promoting inflammation. That's all you can do. And so for me, what I've honed down to is what I call plant-heavy paleo. And so grain-free, no rice, no breads, no pastas, no crackers, no grains, protein, vegetables, but not a 64-ounce steak and a piece of broccoli. I'm talking, you know, I try to get people to start with the protein source that's about the size of their fist, and then at least 4 fists of greens. So that the vast majority of the plate is green vegetables, but there's protein in every meal. We're protein creatures. We need protein. And so fish, beef, pork, chicken, fowl, you know, I'm not honed in on, you know, you can only eat this one or that one. I think, you know, depending on your upbringing, depending on your genetic makeup, you know, you may do better with one form of protein over another. Okay, that's fine. but you need protein at the meal. I don't like beans. I don't like what beans do to the GI tract. There are some people who do really well with beans, but vast majority of people don't. So I like animal proteins. I like eggs, things like those. Those are my go-to proteins with green vegetables. A little bit of fruit. Fruits alone and on an empty stomach, it's more of a snack than it is a meal or a dessert. Never do fruit as a dessert. Drink, I like a quart of water for every 50 pounds of body weight is the rule of thumb I've held for through my career. That I feel like that's a solid amount of water to get into the system. But to me, the diet itself is about controlling inflammation, and if you're plant-heavy paleo, the plants in there are decreasing the inflammation. There's some inflammatory components to protein. There's no doubt about that. Saturated fats and things like that will create some inflammatory responses. But overall, the meal itself is either neutral or decreasing of inflammation. So that's where I'm at right now, is any way that I can decrease inflammation with the patient, I feel like I'm doing my job.
Fantastic. One of the things when I feel like I'm doing a job for myself, and not many people talk about it, is elimination. And can you expand a little on elimination? And it's for me, it's like, hey, when I know that something's coming in and going out right, then it's the right thing for me.
So bowel movements, you mean?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, so I had a colon hydrotherapist one time tell me that you should move the length of your forearm and stool a day. And I've kind of held true to that. And it could be one stool, or it could be 3 bowel movements that equal out to that distance, or that length. So that's some good elimination.
Fantastic elimination.
Exactly. And so I've kind of held true to that. The thing is that, a healthy large intestine basically looks like an upside down U on your body, But when you start working with people and you start palpating their abdominal areas, you find that their colon will expand in areas right before an area where it's spasmed, and then it will whine like it's crazy. Like I'll see it in young kids a lot, where they've got almost an adult colon in a little kid's body.
Wow.
And it's making all these winding turns, and these kids are constipated, they're moving their bowels twice a week, they're uncomfortable. And one of the things that they need is they just need their bodies to grow so that the intestines can stretch out a little bit more. But the different things that cause constriction or spasm in the intestinal tract create these pockets of swelling and bloating in the intestinal tract. And so oftentimes I need to use mechanical means to get the peristaltic contractions working again. The intestines are like a whip. So if I crack a whip, that wave's gonna move, and as it moves towards the end of the whip, it gets quicker as it goes.
Yeah.
That's peristalsis. That's how your intestines are supposed to move. And so if you crack the whip, but then there's a block 3 feet down in the whip, well then that wave is coming back at you. And that's where congestion happens. When the waves are moving in both directions at the same time, you're getting that congestion. And so retraining the intestines to have those normal peristaltic contractions, that takes training from the inside and sometimes training from the outside, where you're actually mechanically helping their body find the rhythm to eliminate. So I think it is a unique individual thing. Mm-hmm. I've had people who move 6 to 8 inches of healthy stool a day, and that's it. Feel great, they look great, palpate their abdomen, they're fine. I've had other people who will have multiple bowel movements a day, maybe upwards of 2 feet of bowels moving a day, but they've got constriction and spasm in their intestines, and it's not healthy in any way. So I think it definitely requires an individualized approach to understanding it. I don't think there's a one size fits all, but I know this, when it's not moving, it's never good.
Right.
You know, that's a definite.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now tell us about Go Mega Spore and what you're doing with that.
So Mega Spore is our physician's version of our probiotic. That's the product that we've been traveling around the country doing doctors conferences. I'm in town today for a functional medicine show out at Scripps, and so that's the physician's version of the product. We have a retail version of the product called PureBalance. It's slightly different. We just like to keep the Mega Spore is a strong product, and if it's just on the internet, if it's just on a health food store shelf, and the patient grabs it, and they look at the thing, say take 2 caps a day, take 2 caps a day, and they get intestinal cramping and diarrhea, and they're gonna think, oh, this product's no good for me. I love it when people get intestinal cramps and diarrhea when they take the product, because that means there's something wrong with their intestines. We need to back down on the dose a little bit to make their life more comfortable, but it's an indication that the product's working and cleaning up their intestinal tract. So the PureBalance is just a weaker, friendlier retail version of the Mega Spore. And so that's just 2 different variations of the same science and the same ingredients that we're using. The MyoMax is a new product that we're just launching now. It's the 320 microgram dose of the pharmaceutical grade vitamin K27 mixed with 100 milligrams of calcium pyruvate. And so very excited about that product and the combination of the 2 products for performance enhancement and well-being, improved well-being.
Where could we find it?
So the PureBalance is online at PureBalance.com. We're going to have a website, dedicated website for PureBalance and MyoMax. We're working on that right now, so we'll have that up before the Q&A happens. Because we were just kind of getting everything going as you invited me to this. So we'll have a dedicated website for that at that time where people can go just one site and order both products at the same time.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And then the physicians need to check out Go Mega Spore.
Exactly.
And have that in their clinics to really help with the bigger cases, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you know what? We could talk just for another couple hours with Dr. Tom and understanding all just the challenges that the gut has. But I mean, that was so informative. Thank you. It was awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you for joining us. I mean, we're so blessed to have you on and talk about this. And going back with our history with Dr. Tom and knowing that he was just the go-to guy 15 years ago, and now he's come up and found these products, and we're going to be able to get it to you guys and reshift. I'm going to be on it for sure, because I've had to list all those challenges. I think most of us have, and so I look forward to getting on it and rebuilding my gut to make it super strong. So when I do travel and go do this, I don't have to worry about anything. So, exactly. And then optimize performance, and as so many of us really need, we need that gut performance to help keep us strong and flowing.
Good stuff.
So anyhow, thanks for going beyond with us. We just went beyond with Dr. Tom. You're going to talk to him live in just a moment. So stay tuned. Thank you for joining us.
Awesome.